I'm going to call the meeting to order. I don't see Jim or Nathan, but we have a quorum. So I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for members of the public who have signed on. I would like to open this up to public comment. You can speak to anything not on the agenda, which means you can't speak about resolution items. And you have 3 minutes if anyone has anything to say. Chris, is anyone raising their hand?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Do not see anybody.
And I see Jim is here.
Oh, Sabine raised her hand.
Okay. Hi, Sabine. Hi, Sabine.
Hello. So I don't really have nothing to specifically address the committee on, but I do want to let everyone know that since this is all the topic of white supremacy, on August 28th, the hate group, California Straight Pride Coalition, is hosting excuse my phone in the background, is hosting a protest against Planned Parenthood and queer people. And we are organizing a counter protest. We're meeting in Roosevelt Park in Modesto at 10 a.m. On August 28th to make sure their bigotry is not tolerated in Modesto. This will be the third year they're in Modesto, and they have gotten the Central Valley Proud Boys, Central Valley Militia, Freedom Angels, and other far-right, fringe, and extremist groups to provide protection for them. They use Nazi iconography in their protests. And to bring it close to home, people from Sonora attend, and even Dave Bush of Oak Hill Presbyterian Church is the reserve chaplain for the Tuolumne County Police Department. Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office and the Sonora Police Department. So he's one of the organizers for this hate event. So that brings it really back to our town, to the topic of the committee. And I just encourage people to come out and protest against their hate. Thanks.
Thanks, Sabine. Anyone else have their hand raised?
Not at this time.
Okay. We'll open it up to public comment probably halfway through the meeting.
Taru, Chief of Police has his hand up now.
Chief Vanderwill?
Yes.
Hi. Are you there? Yes, there you are.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that Bush is associated with our chaplaincy at this point and hasn't been several years. So I don't know what he's involved in or can't confirm or deny whatever his part in that organization is, but he is not associated with our chaplaincy.
Okay, thank you.
It's listed as such on his website, so you may want to ask him to take that off so he doesn't discredit you guys.
Darren, this is public comment. Are you speaking in public comment again this time?
Affirm.
What?
Affirm, yes.
All right.
I'd like to thank the people that come on here and truly actually do something and say stuff. We don't have to agree. We don't have to do this. But I love the fact that we can have good conversations. I had one with Pablo the other day, and I appreciate it. No matter what, we don't see eye to eye on some issues. We see eye to eye on some other ones. But we have a predominant problem with Eric Cartman's coming and trolling us and trolling everything that goes on. And for the true people that are out there that, you know, really care and really do some stuff, I know Megan's part of that. I know Karen's part of that. Pablo.
Darren likes to interrupt people.
Some of the people that, can we mute him? This is my time, right? Please, thank you. So I'd like to say thank you for those people. I know that we don't see eye to eye all the time, but thank you for truly doing something that you truly believe in and not being a troll. Thank you.
You personal tax psycho.
Okay, so I'm closing public comment. So if we can move on to the resolution. Actually, before we, well, we are moving on to the resolution, but did anyone have any comments about the table that was in the packet along with the agenda from last Friday? We're not going to work off of that table today, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't write anything that was incorrect or represent you incorrectly or not represent you at all if you spoke. So just curious if anyone had any comments or corrections. Those are sort of, I guess, becoming our minutes. I hadn't really anticipated that, but I just want people to feel free to ask for additions or just corrections. Okay, so there's another document that I just created today because I realized that
Annhurst.
When I was reviewing the minutes from last time, there was a part about the land and it was mentioned that I suggested that. I don't think I was the one that suggested that we make the land acknowledgement. I don't know if that was BZ.
Well, BC did in the very beginning. Do you know where in the document that was? Oh, it was right after Nikki spoke.
Right.
Spoke.
Yeah, I think I agreed with it, but I think I agreed later on and that wasn't initially my thought.
Well,
yeah, and I think it's I was the one that brought that from the
That was you,
beginning,
David.
Colette.
okay.
Yeah, from
Sorry.
the very beginning, from the first meeting, and I have been repeating that several times at different meetings, and people have been agreed with that. Just to correct that.
Yeah, it was BZ. I mean, in the very beginning, it was BZ that talked about it. But if it was you, Mercedes, I'll watch it again and make sure that it's correct. Thanks. That was it. That's my only big mistake. Okay. So Mercedes is going to share her screen and post this document for everyone to see. I went through the resolutions that people submitted. And thank you all for doing that, those of you who did. And I just looked for common language or common statements and divided people's statements up. And I think that there are 6 or 7 common statements that I have come up with so far. I don't think that this is complete. A couple things just as you're reading this, if you see like in the very first square under common statements, city is crossed out and in parentheses and italics, I've just capitalized it, or down below, I've changed the spelling of Newark. So throughout the document, if there was something that I thought should, and I didn't correct everything that I actually wanted to correct, but I corrected things that I thought really needed to be corrected. I didn't change the wording in the sentence or anything like that. There was one that I put in parentheses and italics a different word because I wasn't sure the word that was used was correct. But again, so if you ever see that and that's your language, please feel free to let me to say that you don't agree or whatever. And if I underline something, it's because it was underlined in the actual resolution. So the different subjects are how we introduce Sonora and how we think Sonora wishes to be known, how we think we wish it to be known. Another one was the Miwok, the original inhabitants of this land. Several people talked about that. Another one was healing the wounds that have happened. I'll get with you in just a second, Darren. Another one was that we don't want this behavior in our community. Another one was a welcoming, and fostering and affirming. Another one was in or with community, and that doesn't mean if you use the word community, I included you in that. This is just talking about doing this, broadening this work into the community. And because many people did mention that. And there are some that are still not included that are just as important. I just hadn't gotten to them. One is talk about racism, violent extremism, genocide. Those will, I think we all need to review those as well. And there are also some comments that were not common statements, but I think are critical. So they are not in here yet either, but they will be for next week. And then action items are also not included. So just so you, when you read this, you don't think that I have just decided that that wasn't worthy of inclusion. Darren.
I'm guessing, am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm guessing you're talking about mine with the revolving dialogue and ongoing dialogue. I do like the ongoing better. That does fit better.
Okay, well,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
change that in mine right now, just so it's that way.
Okay, thanks. All right, so should we just read these together? You know, if it's your writing, would you like to read it? I know who wrote each one, so I actually listed in the third column the person who included that statement. I ended up taking it out because sometimes I just didn't want that to influence our decision.
Right. I think it's, yeah, to avoid bias, I think it's better if there are not authors. We
Okay.
look at the statements and we try to be as unbiased as possible.
Right, right. I didn't figure that out till the end, but I did figure it out. So I will just start reading them. So just how we want to, these are usually the first statements, not always, but usually the opening statement of the resolution. Whereas the city of Sonora is known for its quiet, quaint, rolling hills, simmering lakes, rivers, and friendly small town community, the city of Sonora also acknowledges its diverse multicultural history and its original inhabitants, the Miwok. Whereas the city of Sonora affirms its wish to be known not only for the beauty of its place in the Sierra Nevada foothills and its vibrant gold country history, the city wishes also be known for being a champion of racial equity, justice, and acceptance. Whereas the city of Sonora should be known for its beauty, history, and its wish to do good by all, history has shown a lack of morals and values in its past that we work every day to correct these wrongs. Just a second. Sorry, Jim just sent me a text. Whereas our city desires to be welcoming, comforting, and inclusive with a commitment to community belonging, engagement, and from now on, ongoing dialogue. Thanks for correcting that, Darren. And then the next one is, whereas the city of Sonora acknowledges that it is proud of the gold rush history, which created opportunities. I think for is a better word here for many people. It also recognizes that the period showed racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment of indigenous Chinese, Mexicans, Chileans, and other minorities. And is that it? So that's it. I didn't include mine in here because I just copied Nikki's. So anyhow, any thoughts about which one resonates with you? No, for instance, there's one, if you could scroll down, oh, actually, the very last one, whereas the city of Sonora acknowledges that it is proud of the gold rush history, which created opportunities for many people. It also recognizes that the period showed racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment of indigenous Chinese, Mexicans, Chileans, and other minorities. Now with that one, we had a long conversation about that language, and there will be, at the next meeting, there will be all of those historical truths. There will be a section for that. So just know that if that isn't chosen, that it doesn't mean the historical facts will not be part of the resolution. Okay, any thoughts? Nikki?
I'm wondering if there's maybe a way that we can either combine one or two of these or use two of them. There's two statements here that we talk about, not me, but other people's statements talked about the history has shown a lack of morals and values in its past, and then also recognizing that the period showed racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment. I think it's really important that we have that acknowledgement for people of color and Indigenous people. The acknowledgement means so much. And I know I didn't include that in any of my statements, but I think it's really important to lead with that we touch on that acknowledgement. That feels like one of the first steps towards healing.
So talk about what we wish to be known for, but also acknowledge our past in the very first statement. Okay, Darren.
That statement is actually out of mine. I'll take the brunt of that one. The morals here are all over. You know, again, we weren't who we were 10 years ago. We weren't who we were 20 years ago. We weren't who we were 50 years ago. We are who we are today. We're going to change in the future. And I'd like to see, you know, I put a bunch of stuff in mine. I think mine's actually got my name on top of it. You can see, but it's true. You know, you can't neglect to say that there has been problems, but coming up with a way to say that we're going to not deter with going forward.
Right. Yeah, I liked how you wrote that, Darren. And I think that acknowledgement is, like I said, healing. So I think it was Darren and Mercedes that both had said something similar, and that's powerful.
Alicia has had the hand out
I'm
for a
sorry.
while.
How many are we, because just looking at the examples, how many whereas are we looking? Are we looking for 1 or 2, 3 or 4? Do we have a number where?
Well, not 3 or 4 on this exact kind of topic, which is introduction, City of Sonora is known for or wishes to be known for. I mean, that's what this first topic is. 1 or 2.
Okay.
Or we can just combine 1 or 2. Did that make sense?
I think so.
I'm not thinking it did. It's just.
What I did for mine, I put a few on there. I like to keep them pretty simple. When you put too much words on paper, you're going to lose the general reader pretty fast, especially, but I'm not objective to adding some more, combining some, changing some around. I wrote one out what I would write, but again, there's a lot more verbiage that you guys use that I do particularly like better than mine. So I'm game to add, take away, adjust, maneuver, whatever we need to do on some of them, but some of these are pretty dang good.
Yeah. So
Just
a little bit. I'm sorry that I can't raise my hand. I don't know why, but it's not so I am raising my hand, my physical hand. So
Mercedes, there was an update to do on Zoom. I couldn't get my video to work, and I still can't get my hand to go down every single time I click on it. I didn't do it yet.
Yeah, Zoom can be funny sometimes. Yeah. So I think there was something in one resolution that I don't see it here. And I think it came from Alicia draft. And if I remembered well, how I saw all of our statements, I thought of that like 3 things. So one is the origin. What is the origin? why are we doing this? So is the origin of the resolution an acknowledgement of the past? I see those two items as one. And then the second is a vision towards present and future. And then a third part would be the actions. And I think the what was in Alicia resolution draft was the horrific event of police brutality in 2020 that resulted in the deaths of both George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, brought to light the brutally victimization, discrimination, inequality, implicit bias, and unfair treatment of people of color taking place in many communities to the United States. The city of Sonora pledges to be a city of inclusivity, fair treatment, and stands in support of racial justice.
Mercedes, if I just may, there is a whole section for that language that at the very beginning I mentioned that. I think it is like number 7 in this tablet. It just isn't included. I just haven't completed that part, but it's not that it was excluded.
Okay.
Is this the stuff we're watching on Mercedes' screen? We don't have copies of that, correct, yet?
No, you don't.
Okay. I'm trying to scroll along. It's real small.
So tell me where you want to go.
So, well, let's just go back to the first one. Let's see how, I mean, and you know, whatever we come up with today this is a work in progress, obviously, till it's done. So if we're going to combine a few of these, and I think Nikki said that she thought that it should start out with the language about acknowledging what was good about our history and what was bad about our history, and also include history has shown a lack of morals and values in its past, that we work every day to correct these, and we work every day to correct these wrongs. Is that correct, Nikki? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think a combination of two. I do like the idea of our very first statement. Maybe we all talk a little bit about the beauty of the place, and I think starting it off on a positive, uplifting note would be a good thing. So perhaps one of the statements that we talk about the beauty of the place, and then follow that right up. Maybe there's one, whereas the city of Sonora acknowledges that it is proud of their gold rush history, which created opportunities to many people. It also recognizes that this period showed racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment of Indigenous Chinese, Mexicans, Chileans, and other minorities. I think maybe a combination of those two. I think we all have a little bit of that language in all of ours, but starting out on a positive note, acknowledging the beauty and the specialty of the specialness of our place, and then acknowledging the history that we want to correct.
What is the other one that you're wanting to include with that?
Is this one? I am going to highlight because I hear, and it's this one. Is that what you said, Nikki?
Yeah, I think those two get it across. And then, but if there's a way, like I really like the directness that Darren wrote. History has shown a lack of morals and values in its past, and that we work every day to correct those wrongs.
Great.
Maybe there's a way that we can maybe cut and paste that into the second one as well. Those are just my thoughts.
Wonderful. I totally agree with you. I think that we can start with a positive note and to acknowledge then all the other things. And I agree that the directedness, that is in this one. History has shown it like that is perfect. So if it's okay with you, what I am going to do through as we are reading, I will be highlighting the
Perfect.
statements that we all agree with. So in that way, we don't need to vote for each one, but we can highlight all of it and try to make one big statement. And then next time we can read everything and see if we agree with the final product.
Perfect.
I was
Okay.
gonna say too, I think where we were saying where Nikki was saying, I think it was Nikki's who was saying, you know, our desire to continue to want to change, but also Darren's fits in as well with that dialogue continue as well. So I think taking parts of those two and putting them together, it shows, you know, we're constantly working on it and we're constantly also having this revolving ongoing dialogue. So
Yeah.
Right. Great.
So
Darren.
one question. So are you all seeing the share page?
I am.
Yes.
Okay. I should have asked that before.
I like where you're going with that, Alyssa. I do have some other stuff in there about adapt and change and stuff, you know, treating later that I think will fit your narrative a lot better when we can add to line 2, line 3, you know, whereas 4, you know. So I think take a peek. I think mine still has my name on it. I accidentally sit in with my name on it, but you
I did
can
too.
see, you can cherry pick that and see some stuff out there that I have for later, whereas.
Everybody had their names on theirs. Darren, you're not- I just didn't want names on this table.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we probably don't remember exactly what everyone wrote, but anyhow, so the next one is, that should be a period, not a comma after 2. Miwok, original inhabitants of this land. Everyone wanted something here. I didn't include something here because I wanted to wait for the writing that you Mercedes and you Nikki came up with. Now, Nikki, for the first one, is it not the Chicken Rancheria Band of Miwoks? Isn't that how they list themselves? And if that doesn't matter, I'll take it out.
I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can confirm though.
And the only reason I kind of know that is because I'm always surprised, but I think ranch, it's Chicken Rancheria. So whereas the Tuolumne Band of the Miwok Indians and the Chicken Rancheria Band of Miwok Indians were the original stewards of this land and continue to be generous supporters of our community. Whereas the city of Sonora acknowledges that the original inhabitants of this land were the Miwok, who still today contribute in a significant manner in spite of the brutal violence perpetrated against them at a local and national level. The one that oops, I wasn't supposed to say that. Whereas the original inhabitants of this land for 10,000 years were the Miwok. I love 10,000 years in there. So that was it for mentioning. And am I correct that Mercedes and Nikki, that you two will talk to the tribes and fine tune this language?
Yes.
Is there anything that we want to edit now? Oh, sorry, Darren.
You're right.
What?
Try not to overstep. My question for that is I didn't do a land acknowledgement in mind because I didn't think for the resolution part, I thought they were going to be too separate when we actually talked about that a little bit. So I didn't do one in here, and I would, like I said, I always say, you know, I'd like to see their words before ours. Obviously, I know Nikki has been working with them, but I kind of would rather, I'd rather keep our resolution separate from the land acknowledgement, because I believe the land acknowledgement is going to move to every city council meeting or something like that, versus this is just the resolution for social equity. So I didn't put one in. Is that something we are adding into this resolution?
Well, I think we should, just because I almost think every thing we write should have a land acknowledgement. And it's questionable whether this will ever, a land acknowledgement statement will ever go to city council. I mean, will ever be read, adopted by city council outside of this resolution. I would love that, but I can't depend on that necessarily.
Okay, then I'm gonna rewrite one,
Okay.
even though I want to hear what they have to say more. I think
Yeah.
I'd leave that more to Nikki and Mercedes or whoever's working with them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Darren, that it should be what both bands want to have here, how they want to say it, what they want to say, not what we want to say. I agree. And regarding the land acknowledgement, I think those are two things, right? Hopefully, every meeting will start with doing a land acknowledgement. We do that for our coalition, every meeting, internal meetings and external meetings, always start with land acknowledgement.
I haven't been able to get that through, I will tell you. So, I mean, I've certainly tried, but anyhow, what I would hope is that both bands would also work. Wait, don't go, go back. That both, before the Tuolumne band and the Chicken Ranch band work together to come up with one statement, and I think that would be my request or suggestion. That's it. Anything
So
else?
it worked really well with our vision
Value.
statements and our value statements that we wrote. I met with Chairwoman Reich and Chairman Matheson together, and that was really helpful because it was just really unifying to have the conversation with both tribes together. So if Mercedes is okay with this, perhaps we can take the statements that we currently have and bring them to them together, and then allow them to kind of lead that conversation and get their blessing on these words and see if there's anything else that they would like to see included.
Right. I agree.
I suggest that, go ahead, Alicia.
Thanks. I was thinking how we have, whereas the city of Sonora acknowledged the original inhabitants. I think if we put, because I really like that 10,000 as well. There's something about that number that just like, whoa. Almost mixing those two, whereas, the city of Sonora acknowledge its original inhabitants of this land for 10 years were the Miwoks, and then we could kind of go in the two above. Maybe.
Okay. So could you scroll up a little bit, Mercedes? I just want to read actually, I have it here. The first two are pretty serious, excuse me, are pretty similar, except for the very last part of the second one.
Can we
So-
merge those two?
I don't know that they're pretty similar. I mean, they're,
No.
Okay. Well, I suggest that we skip these until we have some specific writing from them,
I agree.
and that we move to the next one.
Healing the wounds. Everyone wanted to heal the wounds. That was a lot of healing the wounds. That was great. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Whereas the city of Sonora acknowledges the need for commitment towards healing the wounds of racism, it also pledges to work towards not repeating the hate, racism, animosity, and animosity resulting in future pains. And then whereas communities of people of color seek an environment of healing the wounds of the past and reconciling the divide of the present. And then whereas the city of Sonora condemns the past racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment of minorities, it envisions the present and the future to be different, taking steps to make sure the racial profiling and acts of aggression against Black, Indigenous people of color will have no place anymore in this community. And then there's some more on the next page. Therefore, and this is a therefore statement, not a whereas. Therefore, the City Council of Sonora will continue to promote an atmosphere of inclusion, promoting the good of our community, listening and addressing problems that may arise in its future, to be focused on our community's needs and values. And then the next one is, whereas the city of Sonora is committed to seeking a meaningful and thoughtful way to heal the wounds of racism and inequities of our past, to reconcile the divide of the present, and to unify around a path forward toward a future of equity and hope. So lots of choices there. Anything sticking out for everyone?
One thing I changed that I didn't submit, I changed it after, was resulting in future pains. I changed that to traumas, just something a little bit.
Future traumas, okay.
Yeah.
Is this one here, Alicia?
First one, yeah.
In
Where is
future?
Nathan, our resident
Yeah.
English guy?
I don't know. He didn't tell me he'd
Um,
be here. So traumas. Well, that's how you do that. Huh.
Telling me I can't even get the hand to go down.
I just learned something.
Can we scroll back down when you're done there, Mercedes, so I can read a couple more of those?
Here or more?
The top three on page 2, or sorry, the bottom 3 on page 2 would be fine first.
One thing I don't like about this one is because it puts the initiative or the responsibility on communities of people of color. And
I
I
agree with you.
think that, yeah, it should come from the city or from the whole community, you know.
This is
I
what the
don't think-
city is proclaiming, you know, so it can't really
Yeah.
say the city's talking for the community there. Okay, excellent.
I actually sort of like that. I just remember last week, Nikki said something about that it's really important that it's healing for people of color.
Mercedes, go ahead, sorry. Mercedes, that one, top one is mine, the therefore. If you want to change its to its, I'm good with that. If you want to change the community out, you can just do that right now.
Or I can just do that later. when
Or
I-
yeah, however, I just I'm open to word changing. Then I sat and did this. I think I was probably the first one to send it in. I've had this written multiple times and I've changed it a few times with some of the things that people have said. I've had this from, I think from, pretty far in, and some of the stuff that we talk about does change how I feel about somebody else reading this. If a normal person were to see this piece of paper, would they look at it and kind of understand what we're trying to get at? So whatever words we need to change in there, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we have been in agreement through the whole year that what we are looking for is acknowledging the situation right now and envision healing and a different future. So I believe that we all are on the same page about that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's try to see what are we going to highlight here. The first one.
There was one that I just saw, it might be down a little more. It uses the word meaningful. Yeah, that one. The city of Sonora is committed to seeking a meaningful and thoughtful way to heal the wounds of racism and inequities of our past. I really like those words, meaningful and thoughtful. It sort of makes this not just about kind of a feather in the cap. Like we want this to be impactful. We want to really engage with one another and have long-lasting change. And so that meaningful and thoughtful, those words, I love that.
I agree with you. I think though, if you're going to continue with that, you need to have that unifying around a path forward. That just is statement that just makes it,
I don't like the whole statement, but I like some parts.
yeah,
Like I like the reconcile, the divide. I like that part. And I like
unify
also
around the path forward.
unify. Yeah. And
So what-
I,
Mercedes,
sorry,
what don't you like about it?
what was?
About the statement.
What don't you like about it? I'm just curious because you chose something out of each. There are 3 sections to it. I'm just curious what you don't, what doesn't work.
Yeah, where I think I like better to specify where we are coming from and where we are going, I think, and specifying, taking steps to make sure that racial profiling and act of aggression will have no place in this community. I think I like that because at the beginning, we are talking about the history of racial profiling in the community.
Scroll back up,
So-
please.
Sure.
So you want to take out the, oh, that back down a little bit, sorry. You want to take out the against the BIPOC and then kind of compare that is what you like? Is that what I'm guessing? I'm taking notes.
No, I think she likes that one. I think that was her choice. Scroll up, Mercedes, I think.
No, it's not that I like the full statement. I think we can combine part of several statements, or both the statements. Yeah.
I agree.
I think we can as well. I sort of like on this statement to talk about the path to a way to heal the wounds of the past, to reconcile the divide of the present, and to unify around a path forward toward the future without, I don't think this is where I think, personally, where I think we should talk about racial profiling and all of that. I just think it gets that, the language, and there are a couple that have this language, not, this just happens to be the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, I guess that one of the things I don't like is when talking about a path forward, it seems like there is only one path forward. And I
totally, point well taken. I think that's true. Around,
I think we are talking about things that are very complex and we need everyone at the table. And I believe that community engagement is a must. And so if I said that we can unify around a path, it's like an assumption that there is one path. So
I agree with that. I agree.
Mercedes, can you scroll up just a bit to where the part where it was talking about profiling at the end and possibly merging two together? It envisions the present and the future to be different, taking steps to make sure that racial
Scroll down a little bit, Mercedes. There we go.
racial profiling and acts of aggression against BIPOC will have no place anymore in this community. I think there's a way to maybe shorten that a little bit and merge the two together. I don't know.
My question is how
I
many
hear
people,
what Mercedes is saying though. I think if we can just maybe tweak the end and about unify around a path forward, maybe if we can massage that a little bit, but I really like the beginning.
I agree. I think unify, I mean, I will admit that that's mine, and I think unifying around a path forward is an empty statement. I mean, I think that's kind of what you're saying, Mercedes. It's not, it's an empty statement.
Let's see how this works. Whereas the city of Sonora condemns the past racial profiling, exclusion, and mistreatment of minorities, it envisions the present and the future to be different. The city of Sonora is committed to seeking a meaningful and thoughtful way to heal the wounds of racism and inequities of our past, to reconcile the divide of the present, and to find ways to move forward or toward a future of equity and hope, something like that.
Or, well, and even not just find ways. I think if you take the bottom of yours up there, if you scroll back up, or I can actually look at it. Taking steps to make sure that racial profiling and acts of aggression against Black, Indigenous people of color will have no place anymore in this community.
We could say, instead of to unify, we could say
And
to
unify.
reconcile the divide of the present and to stand united against.
Oh,
Can
racial
we-
profiling and what was at the end of the
Can you
previous
tagline
statement.
that on and just get rid of to and unify?
I'm gonna throw it out there, just kind of playing devil's advocate of taking out meaningful and thoughtful altogether, because I understand like they kind of make us feel good and they're those fluff words, but that's kind of what we're doing here is we're thinking in thoughtful, meaningful ways. So it's kind of reiterating something that we don't really need. Whereas if you read it, whereas the city of Sonora is committed to seeking a way to heal the wounds of racism and inequalities of our past, and to reconcile the divide or unity. You kind of see where I'm saying with that. So I would advocate to take that out altogether. I think it puts a little bit more of a powerful.
Let's see. So you are suggesting to take out that and to leave way to heal the wounds of racism.
Maybe just meaningful. Meaningful, just, I don't know, with that word, there's a level of authenticity, I think, behind the work. But I can see your point, Elisa, in wanting to communicate it more directly.
In my mind, I think, and maybe it's more from, working at mental health. So it's like, how do we get somebody to do something so that it's meaning to them? So it's almost makes it really individualized instead of us kind of coming together and making like a group commitment. Does that make sense? Because what's meaningful to everybody is going to be individualized.
The big thing about it,
Good
me,
point.
I always keep saying, is the people that are going to read this, how do you keep them engaged? For what we're writing, we can, write whatever, but to keep them engaged and keep them caring about what we're writing, and it's not getting shoved in there, you can't make it too crazy long and too complicated to read.
Oh, I actually do think meaningful and thoughtful are kind of, it's unnecessary. But I prefer thoughtful, actually, because I think we
prefer that name. Thoughtful sounds better.
I think we have to think deeply about this and take great care about how we work to heal the wounds of racism.
I actually agree. I
Meaningful is
agree.
fluffy. I think thoughtful, because these conversations are often so knee-jerk, and that's not thoughtful. And I think we need to remind ourselves to be thoughtful.
Yeah, it's that curiosity. I agree.
I like
City
that
of
too, out of
Sonora
the
is-
2 words.
Yeah,
thoughtful.
But then at the last part, and to unify, blah, 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 that's where I think we can cut and paste with the one up above that
Yeah.
had.
to stand
Thank you.
united against racial profiling and acts of aggression against Black, Indigenous people of color.
Or taking steps to make sure that racial profiling and acts of aggression, yes, will no longer have, I think that I don't, instead of will have no place anymore in this community, I think it should be will no longer have a place in this community. That's how I would write that, but
Mhm.
yes. But will no longer have a place in this community.
Do you want to keep to reconcile the divide of the present?
Yes. Because I think that that's part of our work.
I do too.
I think it's an important.
So maybe we can, let's see what it looks like if we leave that part, Mercedes, to reconcile the divide of the present.
Oh, I didn't.
And taking steps to make sure that racial profiling and acts of aggression against BIPOC will have no place in this community.
Yes. Yeah, I think reconciled and a lot of people said reconciled the divide of the present. I mean, that was a big part. All right,
Okay,
good.
let me save it. Okay, so let's go to the fourth, or is 4:53?
Oh my goodness,
Public comment.
Oh,
public comments, sorry.
I feel like we're just getting into it.
I
I don't
know.
want to stop.
Now, I haven't, I couldn't talk to Mary Rose this afternoon because she's actually supposed to be on vacation and had to be at work for a while for some reason. So, but I'm going to ask for an hour and a half.
Colette, we have a planning commission meeting tonight and it takes me about 15 minutes to set up for that.
Right. No, we're wrapping this up. We're wrapping
Okay.
this up. Absolutely. I'm just
I
going
think
to
she means for next meeting.
for next week. I just wanted you guys to hear that you all to hear that I'm going to ask for an hour and a half, and I wanted the public to hear that as well. So, okay. Thank you, Mercedes. We need to open this up to public comment.
On topic, public comment.
No, public comment is about whatever that's not on topic that anyone would like to speak about. So we're opening this up to public comment. Anything? You can also speak about the agenda, the resolution. BZ. BZ. Are you there? BZ.
She was just sitting in her chair.
Hi, I'm here. I'm here. I'm sorry.
There you are.
I'm sorry. I went to go get a cup of coffee and got to unmute myself. So a couple of things. I want to make this short. Number one, I want to commend you guys for this meeting this evening because I really have that sense of you all as a group coming together and working for what this common goal is, to find this sense of reconciliation and the spirit that will begin that healing process within our community. I just really want to let each of you know how much I appreciate your dedication and your willingness to dig in deep to who you are as individuals and what you bring to this process. So thank you so much to every single one of you, to Darren, to Elisa, to Nikki, to Mercedes, to Nathan, who's not here, and to Colette, and to Jim, who I don't think is here either. And also, I really want to, I just want to comment that Colette's leadership is authentic, it is thoughtful, and it is respectful. And I just want to put that out there to the world. And then the last thing I just want to share with you, just a little tidbit that I picked up from a workshop I attended recently at the National Storytelling Conference that was on this very subject. And this is to paraphrase it. Every one of us is invested in a certain identity. Whoever we are, wherever we walk through life, we are invested in some aspects
We're just
of
finishing up another
who
meeting.
we are for our core self and who we are here too. It's an identity in which we are invested. And the most important thing for each one of us to remember, and for we need to take to the community, to the broader community, to the normal, is that social equity starts with me. It starts with me. It starts in what I think, in what I say, and in what I do. And if we all, as a core group of people who are committed to this, remember that thoughts, words, and deeds are the cornerstone of our character. So I just want to pass that on and thank you again for your continuing diligent hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Lucy.
Okay, for 2 weeks from now, you can still work on your resolutions and tweak them. And, Mercedes, if you could send this work actually, if you could send it to me, I know you can't send it to everyone, but if you could send it to me and to Mary Rose, I don't know when Mary Rose will be in this week, and then I can just start working on it a little bit, but also
I will.
if people, I will also add to it, and I will add these statements about, I will write a statement about genocide. So there will be that category, and also action items. If you have come up with action items or anything that you want to add to your resolution, please feel free to, and then you need to send those to Mary Rose. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mercedes, for doing that. I know it's a lot of work to be part of a meeting and maneuver around on that. I would be a disaster. So thank you so much for doing that. All right, well, we got through 4 out of 6 so far, so that's actually not bad. And we have, and
It's good.
I think we made some really good changes and
Yeah.
made really good choices. And this we'll continue on with this next week. Mercedes.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone, Alicia, Darren, Nikki, Colette, because each of you created a draft, and it was really good to read your thoughts. So I really appreciate that you take the time to do that.
And you too, Mercedes. You too. You actually led us. You led the show. So anyhow, yeah, thank you all for doing that. Thanks for putting your work forward. Thanks for, people don't really like homework and stuff like this, but homework's actually a critical part to this work and study and thought. And I think we all think better when we put something down on paper. So with that, any more public comment? I guess I probably closed it to public comment. Sorry. I always forget this stuff. Thank you. On to Planning Commission. Thanks, Chris, for helping
Thanks,
us out.
guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
And thanks to everyone from the public for being here so much. Bye.